Greetings all, and welcome to the 4th episode of TM Technical Movement. For today, we'll be taking a look at the Karate Chop, Cross Chop, Revenge, Brick Break, Arm Thrust, Force Palm, Wake Up Slap, Submission, Rock Smash, Superpower, Close Combat, and Reversal attacks.
Mechanically speaking, the Karate Chop attack is exactly what it sounds like, a sharp downward chop attack that strikes the opposition and deals decent damage through a rapid change in motion. By quickly striking and bringing an arm back up, a Pokemon using a Karate Chop attack can impart a fairly large impulse on the opposition within a short period of time, in turn causing decent physical damage in the process. Interestingly enough, this process tends to heighten the nerve response of an opponent when it connects, in turn increasing the chance of the attack scoring a critical hit. The attack is benefited even more so by its high accuracy rate and ability to deal damage at the expense of very little stamina, making it a great move all around for the few species of Pokemon that can learn it. Since an opponent must use an appendage of some sort in order to execute a Karate Chop attack, striking or otherwise damaging the offending appendage can help reduce and negate the damage dealt by this attack. Otherwise, however, the attack is exceptionally difficult to dodge in close quarters. Armor is of little use in protecting against the attack, and may even do more harm than good if pieces of armor are driven inward by the force of the attack's impact. Overall, the Karate Chop attack is fairly limited in its use, so it's unlikely that it will be seen outside relatively relaxed combat. Nonetheless, it's still a decent move that should give one more than enough reason to avoid getting too close to an opponent. The Cross Chop attack is effectively a dual Karate Chop attack delivered with both arms at the same time, striking quickly in an X-shaped pattern and inflicting considerable physical trauma in the process. As with the Karate Chop attack, the Cross Chop attack involves bringing down an arm onto the opposition and then bringing it back up quickly, in turn imparting a considerable impulse. The difference here is that the Cross Chop attack utilizes both arms at the same time to deliver the attack in an X-shaped pattern. The attack still retains the ability to generate an increased pain response within the opposition upon impact, in turn granting it a higher chance of inflicting a critical hit, but the attack's base power is doubled, obviously due to the fact that both arms are being used at the same time. Unfortunately, because both arms must be used precisely at the same time, some preparation time is needed to deliver the attack properly, so its accuracy rate is less than stellar. Even so, the Cross Chop attack is a fairly quick and potent move that can still deal considerable amounts of damage when applied correctly in battle. Plus, it doesn't suffer from the negative after effects like other high-powered fighting-type physical attacks like Close Combat and Superpower. Since an opponent must still use an appendage of some sort in order to execute a Cross Chop attack, striking or otherwise damaging the offending appendages can help reduce and negate the damage dealt by this attack. If this is not an option though, fairly agile Pokemon should be able to dodge the move in close quarters. Armor is once again of little use in protecting against this attack, and may even do more harm than good if pieces of it are driven inward by the force of the attack's impact. Although the Cross Chop attack is limited to a few species of Pokemon, those that do have access to it are more than capable of using it to great effect in battle, so evasive tactics are still the best option to take in any combat situation, as strong defenses alone may not be enough to counter its higher capacity to inflict critical hits. Much as its name suggests, the Revenge attack is a physical counterattack designed to maximize the amount of damage it does by relying on the temperament of the user. The Revenge attack is essentially a modified form of the basic counterattack that replaces straight retaliation with a total dependence on the user's temperament and physical strength. The Revenge attack is both inferior to the counterattack in that the amount of damage it can potentially do is limited to some degree, and superior in that it can deal constant potentially large amounts of damage regardless of the amount of damage the user actually received from an attack. Like the counterattack, the move is initiated as a counter move and is thus only used after the opposition decides to act, or at least in most cases. If the opponent does not directly attack the user, the Revenge attack only deals a moderate amount of damage. If a direct attack is used, however, the user becomes enraged by the attack and strikes back with greater force, in effect doubling the move's base power. Although this means the actual damage dealt by the attack is completely dependent upon the physical strength of the user, the fact that the attack can decimate both weak and strong opponents equally and is difficult to avoid makes it a great counter to use in just about any situation, which might explain then why it was installed as TM42 in Silphco's 8th generation line of TMs and TRs before being discontinued in the 9th generation line. Since its exact execution style varies from Pokemon to Pokemon, directly countering let alone dodging the Revenge attack is exceptionally difficult in close quarters. Armor is of little use in protecting against this attack, and may do more harm than good if pieces of it are driven inward by the force of the attack's impact. The Revenge attack is not a common move to see among purely offensive combatants, but is a probable find among trainers who like to mix offense and defense. As such, strong defenses are highly recommended for countering or at least reducing the overall damage of the attack, especially when it is at full power. In essence, the Brick Break attack involves striking an opponent with a swift, concentrated Karate Chop, capable of smashing through energy-based barriers. The Brick Break attack is designed to combine the damage-dealing efficiency of a basic karate chop with a greater applied force and more concentrated impact area to shatter even the most imposing barriers in battle. As such, the Brick Break attack is effectively the same as a karate chop attack in execution and shows no major differences in appearance. However, the move's practical applications are far greater, as the increased amount of force put behind the attack as well as the reduced surface area onto which the attack lands, granted the capacity to smash through otherwise unbreakable objects and crack even the sturdiest of armor in battle. This equally allows the move to do something that is absolutely extraordinary in combat. When used on an opponent that has a reflector or light screen surrounding them, the force of the blow actually shatters the shield before delivering damage to the target, with no loss in overall damage capacity in between. This can make the otherwise simplistic attack extremely useful to have around all sorts of fights, and can easily prove to be the best tool a purely offensive fighter can have around to deal with defensive opponents. It was for this reason that Silphco decided to release the move as TM31 within the 3rd generation line of TMs, from which it has gained tremendous popularity among all types of trainers and has been reproduced in all successive generations, only becoming TM43 in the 8th generation line and TM58 in the 9th generation line as a numerical change. Because an opponent must use an appendage of some sort in order to execute a Brick Break attack, striking otherwise damaging this offending appendage can help reduce and negate the damage dealt by the move. Otherwise, however, the attack is exceptionally difficult to dodge in close quarters. Armor is of little use in protecting against this attack, and may even do more harm than good if pieces of armor are driven inward by the force of the attack's impact. The Brick Break attack is a universal move among offensive fighters, and is a more than common sight among trainers of all types and specialties, so it certainly is a likely move to be seen in all sorts of fights. Aside from physically countering it, however, there are things that can noticeably reduce its effectiveness are strong defenses and the choice to not rely on wasting energy to produce light screen or reflect shields for defense. As one might expect, the arm thrust attack involves forcefully striking the opposition repeatedly with open palms successfully to the point where it is impossible to dodge in between strikes. The arm thrust attack is a move specifically designed for shoving matches between opponents of equal or greater size, and is thus known only by fighting types that do their best against opponents their size or greater. Equally used by sumo wrestlers and the Pokémon that gain access to it naturally in battle, the arm thrust attack is effectively a rapid-fire barrage of open palm slaps designed to inflict minor but successive damage over a fairly short period of time. Since little force is put behind each individual slap, the attack has a relatively small damage potential, but is gifted with the same benefits found in other multi-strike attacks, and can be delivered so quickly that the opposition does not have any time to react before the attack even begins or between individual strikes. On average, a single arm thrust attack can strike an opponent 2 to 5 times before the user has to relax his muscles before preparing another barrage of strikes, in turn potentially dealing moderately high amounts of damage in the process. It might not be the most imposing of physical blows in battle, but when little else is available, this attack can certainly prove to be a handful to deal with in close quarters. It is lastly noted that because the attack actually strikes multiple times in a short period of time, it can be used to override the effects of the sturdy ability and items like Focus Sash or Focus Bands, as well as amplify the effects of the weak armor ability. Since an opponent must use an appendage of some sort to execute the arm thrust attack, striking or otherwise damaging these appendages can help reduce and negate the damage it actually deals. Otherwise, however, the attack is exceptionally difficult to dodge in close quarters. Armor is of little use in protecting against it as well, and may even do more harm than good if pieces of it are driven inward by the force of the attack. The arm thrust attack is a fairly imposing move to first-time trainers, but although it can be used to override the effects of abilities like Sturdy and items like Focus Sash or Focus Bands, as well as amplify the effects of the weak armor ability, even if it manages to hit 4 or 5 times, the attack is still fairly weak overall, and not something that needs to be feared extensively unless your Pokémon are naturally weak to fighting type attacks. In effect, the Force Palm attack involves users striking with a palm concentrated energy shockwave, able to damage nearby targets or potentially disable basic motor functions. The Force Palm attack is a relatively mysterious move that, although technically a projectile attack without any doubt, is classified as a physical attack as a result of its inability to actually bypass physical defenses. The move itself involves user charging up a burst of energy within its palms before releasing it in the form of a powerful shockwave designed to inflict surface damage on the opposition's armor or skin up close. While the attack itself is somewhat uncommon among Fire-type Pokémon and is only moderately damaging in most cases, the attack does have something interesting that offers strategists in battle: the capacity to immobilize the opposition. The energy used in a Force Palm attack is actually derived from the electromagnetic energy of the user, and apparently has the capacity to interfere with electricity present in a target, effectively inflicting paralysis about 30% of the time. The surprising efficiency of the attack in this regard can make its otherwise low damage potential more than worth risking against larger opponents, in turn validating its use in both friendly and professional settings as a versatile weapon. Although the Force Palm attack is delivered as a projectile attack, striking or otherwise damaging the opponent's hands before the attack is delivered can help reduce and negate the actual damage done by the attack. Otherwise, the move is exceptionally difficult to dodge in close quarters. Armor is of little use in protecting against the move, and may even do more harm than good if pieces of it are driven inward by the energy applied in the attack's impact. The Force Palm attack might not be known by a fairly diverse array of creatures, but when available, it is a potentially devastating blow that can make life difficult for Pokémon that do not have an immunity to paralysis, a trait that should be countered directly when and if at all possible. As its name suggests, the Wake Up Slap attack involves the user striking the opposition suddenly with a vicious hard slap designed to keep them awake and alert. The Wake Up Slap attack is a fairly specialized move designed to make life difficult for opponents that enjoy using moves like Rest to recover their energy, or otherwise punish others that sleep when they really shouldn't. As stated, the Wake Up Slap itself is a sudden, surprising, powerful slap that deals considerable damage despite its simple appearance, and is able to literally knock the opposition senseless in many cases. However, the move's sudden and oftentimes unnoticeable execution also makes it extremely effective at waking up opponents, even to the point where any sleeping opponent that is struck by the move will instantly be woken up. As a consequence, however, the very sudden awakening will actually intensify the pain inflicted and essentially double the move's base power in the process. While this may spoil the efforts of a fellow teammate to potentially keep an opponent asleep and unable to battle properly, this nonetheless makes the attack a potentially nasty strike that can easily make specialized fighters happy against a multitude of opponents. As usual, since an opponent must indeed use an appendage of some sort to execute the Wake Up Slap attack, striking otherwise damaging it can outproduce and negate the damage dealt by the attack. Otherwise, however, it is really difficult to dodge in close quarters. Armor is of little use in protecting against the attack, and may even do more harm than good if pieces of armor are driven inward by the force of the attack's impact. The Wake Up Slap attack is certainly not powerful enough on its own to be a major threat in battle, but considering what it can potentially do to sleeping Pokémon, the only reliable course of action that can be taken to partially counteract its effectiveness is to ensure that your Pokémon do not fall asleep. In short, the submission attack involves recklessly grabbing an opponent and diving into the ground with them, dealing considerable physical trauma to both the target and the user in the process. Much as with traditional combat, the submission attack is a move designed to immobilize an opponent quickly and perhaps recklessly, all for the sake of dealing damage. The move's technical execution tends to vary among species of Pokémon, as well as individuals alone, but the end result is that both the opponent and the user end up being driven into the ground harshly and without care. As such, this attack is unique in that it has the potential to actually break limbs and potentially kill either side if they land wrong upon coming into contact with the ground, but the chance of this happening is still thankfully slim. While the submission move works like similar reckless attacks in that 25% of the damage dealt to the opponent is dealt to the user in the form of recoil, the submission attack is noticeably different because it not only requires considerably less damage to use than other recoil attacks, but can be executed numerous ways with the same general effect. In professional fighting combat, trainers that have Pokémon with access to this move often use the attack as a way of incapacitating the opposition until they either decide to tap out or are pardoned from the battle by their trainer, in turn making it a great move to have access to. Sadly, the attack's exceptionally low accuracy rate and only moderately high damage potential makes it less than useful in regular battles, so it's unlikely that it will see much time under normal circumstances. Even so, the versatility of the move can still win over most trainers that are willing to give it a shot. It was for this reason that Silph Co released the move as TM17 within the first generation line of TMs, but lacking sales during its time promotion eventually led the company to discontinue the move afterwards. Since its exact method of execution varies among Pokémon, it is difficult to physically counter submission attack under normal circumstances. Nonetheless, even fairly agile Pokémon shouldn't have too much trouble dodging the attack in close quarters. Armor is again of little use in protecting against the attack, and may even do more harm than good if pieces of the armor are driven inward by the force of the attack's impact. The chances of seeing the submission attack used in professional battle are slim to none, but that doesn't mean that an opponent might not pull it out as a surprise attack in close quarters. As such, evasive tactics are highly recommended for dealing with the move, as its moderately high damage power can still add up to a whole lot of damage in the long run if left unchecked. Those strong defenses can also help outlast the opposition and ensure that they take themselves out first from recoil. As one might imagine, the Rock Smash attack involves striking the opposition with a concentrated amount of force sufficient enough to smash large rocks. The Rock Smash attack could effectively be considered to be little more than a concentrated strike designed to inflict a large amount of force on a fairly small area in such a way as to break hard objects. In simpler terms, it could be seen as a karate chop attack without any actual physical skill. The move is primarily designed for breaking armor above all other things, which is exactly what it does in practice. In fact, Rock Smash is more than notable for its ability to lower a target's defense stat about 50% of the time, in turn making it a literal nightmare for defensive fighters in close quarters, even though the attack is unaffected by items like King's Rocks and is fairly weak. Originally, the move was released by Silph Co as TM8 within the second generation line of TMs, where it gained moderate popularity among some people. Many years ago, however, a series of landslides across the Hoenn and Sinnoh regions effectively buried most trails in rubble, in turn making life for most people extremely hard. In response, the Rock Smash attack was upgraded to HM6 for the company's 3rd and 4th generation lines, from which its popularity rose dramatically. Sadly, this popularity has not been sustained in recent years, and the move no longer is of much use in Japan as it once was, so the move was once again released as a TM94 within the company's 5th and 6th generation line of TMs, though it was recently restored to its HM status in the Hoenn region as part of a special package deal involving the Secret Power attack and the Super Secret Base craze. In the Alola region, however, the move was unavailable in that form due to the discontinuation of all HMs, though trainers were not at a total loss as the move was naturally learned by a number of Pokemon and has been recently reinstated as TM98 within the recent Sinnoh Special Edition set. As a result of the attack's varied and uncertain execution style, it is exceptionally difficult to directly counter-dodge the Rock Smash attack in close quarters. Armor is, again, of little use in protecting against this attack, and may even do more harm than good if pieces of said armor are driven inward by the force of the attack's impact. The Rock Smash attack isn't exactly powerful enough to be of much use in battle under most circumstances, so it should not be much of a concern unless your Pokemon have exceptionally poor physical defenses to begin with. The fact that it can easily lower one's defense stat, however, still makes Pokemon with high defense stats the best possible option for countering its worst effects. In essence, the Superpower attack involves striking the opposition at full power without any regards to personal health or physical stability. The Superpower and close combat attacks are essentially minor variations of one another that both deal about the same amount of damage, but do so with different trade-offs as a result of the differing execution styles. The Superpower attack involves users striking forcefully at maximum strength without any regards to physical well-being in the process, which makes the move a double-edged sword. On the one hand, the move is exceptionally accurate and highly damaging against all kinds of opponents because the user puts a great deal of focus and preparation into the move. At the same time, however, the use of this move puts a serious strain on the user's muscles and causes them to become physically weaker than before, in turn lowering the attack and defense stats afterwards. This can make the attack a bit of a temperamental blow that might end up hurting the user more than the opposition, especially since the move is unaffected by items like King's Rocks, but considering that it never normally misses and is otherwise impossible to properly defend against, it can still be a punishing move that few opponents will be able to completely walk away from, helping to explain then why it was instated as TR39 in Silphco's first line of TRs before being discontinued along with the rest of the line. Due to differing execution styles, there is no way to directly dodge or counter the Superpower attack. Armor is of little use in protecting against this attack, and may even do more harm than good if pieces of the armor are driven inward by the force of the attack's impact. The Superpower attack is a powerful move that can certainly deal its fair share of damage against most opponents, but if the fact that it weakens the user defensively can be taken advantage of, the move can easily be turned against the opposition in conjunction with strong defenses and made more into a weapon of defeat than one of success. Similar to the Superpower attack, the close combat attack involves striking the opposition fiercely in close quarters without bothering to guard oneself against further damage. The close combat and Superpower attacks, again, are essentially minor variations of one another that both deal about the same amount of damage, but do so with different trade-offs as a result of the differing execution styles. The close combat attack involves users striking the opposition fiercely and repeatedly in close quarters without taking the time to guard against further attacks, which makes the move a double-edged sword. On the one hand, the move is exceptionally accurate and highly damaging against all kinds of opponents because the user strikes quickly enough that the opposition cannot easily react or counter the strike. At the same time, however, the use of this move essentially renders the user unguarded and weakens the overall resistance against damage, in turn lowering their defense and special defense stats afterwards. This can make the attack a bit of a temperamental blow that might end up hurting the user more than the opposition, but considering that it never normally misses and is otherwise impossible to properly defend against, it can still be a punishing move that few opponents will be able to completely walk away from, which might explain why it was instated as TR53 in Silphco's first line of TRs, and then TM167 in the 9th generation line of TMs. Due to differing execution styles, there is no way to directly counter or dodge the close combat attack. Armor is, again, of little use in protecting against the move, and may even do more harm than good if pieces of it are driven inward by the force of the attack. The close combat attack is a powerful move that can certainly deal its fair share of damage against most opponents, but if the fact that it weakens the user defensively can be taken advantage of, the move can easily be turned against the opposition in conjunction with strong defenses and made more into a weapon of defeat than one of success. The reversal attack is effectively a full-powered strike performed with a body parry for the entire body of a Pokemon in close quarters with relatively little technique or preparation. While both the flail and reversal attacks rely on nerve impulses as the catalyst for the move, the reversal attack is slightly more specialized in that it allows for muscle control during the attack. When used, the reversal attack causes the brain of the user to send out massive electrical signals to the user's muscles, but instead of merely causing them to contract rapidly and uncontrollably, the electrical signals force the muscles to do so only once and not repeatedly. This builds up tremendous tension within the muscles that is only released when the user chooses to release it, which in turn signifies the execution of the reversal attack. Since it works much in the same way as the flail attack, The amount of tension that gets built up is completely dependent upon how active the user's pain receptors are, and therefore how much damage has actually been inflicted on them. Starting at a measly base power of 20 and topping out at 200 when the user has less than 5% of its total HP remaining. Unfortunately, because this move is completely dependent upon how damaged the user actually is, its applications are virtually limited to extremely desperate situations. Nonetheless, the ability to deliver a blow as destructive as a self-destruct attack in the worst of situations is a powerful strategy that few trainers will look completely away from, especially if an item like a focus band or a focus sash with them, which may then explain why it was made into TR21 as part of Silphical's first line of TRs, and then TM134 for the 9th generation line of TMs. Although an opponent using reversal attack does have control over their body, they have very limited mobility and will respond very little to pain during the attack, so dodging or preventing the attack is exceptionally difficult in close quarters. As is usually the nature with fine-type moves, armor is of little use in protecting against this attack, and may even do more harm than good if pieces of armor are driven inward by the force of the attack's impact. The reversal attack is not one that you are likely to see until near the end of a battle, but that also means that it should be prepared for extensively. If a Pokémon is not able to finish off the opposition completely with a powerful strike, the potential of a complete turnover in battle can become a real threat that often only strong defenses will be able to handle fully.
That's it for this episode, so stay tuned for the next episode of TM Technical Movement. Thank you all for watching this video. It always brings me great joy to see others enjoying the work I do to try and make the world of Pokemon and the fascinating creatures that lay inside of it feel as real as they possibly can. If you really enjoy my work, please feel free to leave a comment and subscribe, as I always do my best to respond to any and all comments that are left on my videos. In addition, if you wish to learn more about my work and help support it, you can find links to my Patreon page, as well as email and other contact information to my work on DeviantArt in the video description down below. Furthermore, you can find a link to my Discord server there as well if you'd like to get a first glimpse at what videos are coming up next and converse with other fans of the world of Pokemon. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and have a wonderful rest of your day.